5:12 local time. Strait of Hormuz. The sea looks almost unreal in its calmness. From the flight deck of the American aircraft carrier, the water stretches out in every direction, smooth and quiet under the first light of morning. A pale silver glow moves across the narrow strait. Far away, tankers follow the shipping lanes at a slow, steady pace. Fighter jets remain secured to the deck. Sailors move through their normal watch routines. Everything appears controlled. Routine? Peaceful. But 200 feet below the carrier, deep in the cold, dark layers of the Gulf, something is moving. Inside the Combat Information Center, the steady rhythm of the morning shift changes in an instant. A sonar operator stops. On his screen, a faint acoustic trace flickers across the passive sonar feed. It is not strong. It is not obvious. Just a low mechanical pulse, nearly hidden beneath the natural background sound of the ocean. He leans closer. Possible subsurface contact, he says calmly. There is no panic in his voice, no sudden movement, but everyone in the room looks up. The signal begins to stabilize. Bearing 147, range 19 nautical miles. The acoustic profile is weak, but the pattern is familiar. Diesel-electric propulsion, submarine. The contact is moving slowly, barely 2 knots, almost gliding through the thermocline layer, where warm and cold water bend and distort sonar waves. It is exactly the kind of place where a submarine can disappear. The operator marks the track. 5 seconds later, another tone appears. A second acoustic trace enters the system from a different direction, bearing 161, range 21 miles, another submarine signature. The room becomes even quieter. The tactical display refreshes. 2 underwater contacts now move across the digital chart beneath the carrier strike group. Different bearings, different sound profiles. 2 separate submarines. For a moment, no one says anything. Then the sonar console flashes again. A third signal rises from the background noise. Fainter than the first 2, but steady. Bearing 132, range 23 miles, 3 contacts, 3 submarines, all moving slowly. All closing toward the same point. The carrier. Inside the Combat Information Center, the watch officer studies the tactical map without changing expression. Track them, he says. No raised voice, no rushed command, just quiet authority. Above them, on the bridge, the aircraft carrier continues its steady course through the Strait of Hormuz, carving a wide white wake through the narrow shipping corridor between Iran and Oman. The ship displaces nearly 100,000 tons. It moves like a floating city. But beneath the waterline, it has one unavoidable weakness. It cannot disappear. The Combat Information Center pushes the data into the strike group's network. Within seconds, every escort ship sees the same picture. Destroyers, cruisers, helicopters. The entire formation is now watching 3 small icons moving slowly across the digital ocean floor. 3 submarines are approaching in a loose triangular pattern. The geometry does not look accidental. Submarine crews train for this kind of positioning. A 3-point approach spreads pressure across multiple angles, making it harder for a large surface ship to maneuver away cleanly. The formation develops slowly but clearly. 3 silent contacts are moving into place. 5:17. 200 miles away, high above the Persian Gulf, a maritime patrol aircraft banks slightly east. A P-8 Poseidon. The aircraft carries one of the most advanced anti-submarine systems in service. Inside its mission bay, technicians begin releasing sonobuoys into the sea below. Small cylinders hit the water and open beneath the surface, deploying underwater microphones. Passive buoys, active buoys. Within minutes, they form a listening grid across 60 square miles of ocean. Each buoy listens. Each buoy reports. Then one of them picks up something, a faint propeller rhythm moving below the thermal layer. The signal travels instantly through satellite link back to the carrier strike group. Confirmation, submarine contact. Then another buoy responds. Second confirmation. Moments later, a third buoy lights up on the network. 3 separate underwater signatures. The tactical display aboard the carrier updates again. 3 red tracks now move steadily closer, range decreasing. 19 miles, 17, 18. Inside the Combat Information Center, the sonar operator adjusts his headset and watches the acoustic waveforms climb slowly across the screen. The sound is clearer now. Low-frequency propulsion, Iranian diesel-electric profile. There is no doubt anymore. These submarines are not simply passing through the area, they are closing the distance. At this speed, they will reach the carrier's defensive perimeter in less than 40 minutes. No sirens sound. No alarms echo through the ship, but every station inside the strike group understands what has just begun. 3 submarines, 1 carrier, and the quietest phase of the pursuit is now underway. 5:29. The Strait of Hormuz is beginning to wake up. Cargo ships move slowly through the narrow shipping lanes. Oil tankers glide across the horizon. The morning sun rises higher above the Persian Gulf, throwing long reflections across the water. From the outside, the American carrier strike group looks exactly the way it is supposed to look. A massive aircraft carrier moves through the water at a steady pace. 2 guided missile destroyers hold position several miles ahead. Another escort follows slightly behind. Helicopters sit quietly on the flight deck. Routine, professional, predictable. But below the surface, the ocean is becoming crowded. Inside the Combat Information Center, the underwater picture grows clearer with every passing minute. The 3 submarine contacts have not changed course. They are still closing in. Slow, careful, methodical, speed 2 knots. At that pace, a submarine barely disturbs the water around it. Its acoustic signature is almost nothing, just a faint whisper beneath the natural noise of the sea. But underwater, even whispers can travel far. And now, the strike group is listening. The sonar operator follows the first contact, range, 14 nautical miles. The submarine remains deep beneath the thermocline layer, where changes in water temperature bend sonar waves and create areas of acoustic shadow. It is one of the best places to stay hidden, but no hiding place lasts forever. Another update appears on the tactical display. The second submarine contact adjusts its bearing slightly, only a few degrees. To a civilian vessel, the movement would mean nothing. But inside the carrier's tactical system, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. The 3 submarines are spreading apart. The triangle is getting wider. The watch officer studies the screen. He does not need to say what everyone in the room is already thinking. They are moving into position. A carrier strike group is one of the most heavily protected formations at sea. Radar watches the sky. Aircraft patrol the air. Electronic systems scan the horizon. But threats from below are different. They come from a place where visibility disappears, distance becomes deceptive, and every sound matters. 5:31. One of the escorting destroyers activates its hull-mounted sonar. A sharp metallic pulse bursts outward into the sea. Ping. The sound cuts through the water and spreads in every direction. Inside the Combat Information Center, the acoustic display fills with reflections as the pulse bounces across the seabed and returns. Ping. Another pulse. Ping. Every submarine in the area hears it. To the crews below, the meaning is unmistakable. They have been found. Inside one of the Iranian submarines, the captain listens through his headset. American active sonar. He understands immediately what it means. The carrier group is no longer only watching, it is searching. But he also knows something else. They are already close. Very close. He checks the range again. 9 nautical miles. Inside the submarine, the crew moves quietly through the narrow control room. No shouting, no rushing, only careful preparation. This is the kind of moment they have trained for. Above the surface, the carrier strike group begins to shift its formation. The destroyers spread slightly wider, not enough to alarm nearby commercial ships, just enough to tighten the defensive screen around the carrier. On the flight deck, a helicopter crew runs toward a waiting MH-60R Seahawk. The aircraft is already fueled, already prepared. The Seahawk is one of the Navy's primary submarine hunters. Beneath its frame is a dipping sonar system designed to search deep below the surface. Its pylons carry specialized underwater defense systems built for this exact mission. Within minutes, the helicopter rises from the deck. Its rotor wash throws spray across the carrier's wake as it accelerates forward. Inside the Seahawk cockpit, the sensor operator watches the digital ocean map update in real time. 3 submarine contacts. Closing. Range. 8 miles. That distance matters. Long-range underwater systems can travel far, but at close range, the danger grows quickly. There is less time to react, less space to maneuver, fewer options. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical officer studies the numbers. 8 miles. 7. The submarines continue forward at the same slow pace. No sudden turns, no sign of hesitation, just a quiet, steady approach. That calm says everything. These crews are not drifting into the area by mistake. They know exactly where they are going. 5:36. The Seahawk reaches the outer edge of the sonar grid. Below it, the sea looks dark and empty, but the sensors tell a different story. The helicopter slows into a hover. The dipping sonar begins to lower into the water beneath the aircraft. A long cable disappears beneath the waves. The sonar head enters the ocean, and instantly the system begins to listen. A faint mechanical rhythm comes through the speakers. Slow propeller rotation, a heavy steel hull moving through deep water. Submarine confirmed. The sensor operator marks the contact, one of the 3, but the other 2 are still out there, still closing. Inside the Combat Information Center, the range indicator drops again, 6 nautical miles. At that distance, every officer in the room understands the situation. The carrier has entered a critical defensive zone, and somewhere beneath the dark water of the Strait of Hormuz, 3 Iranian submarines are nearly ready to act. 5:41. Inside the Combat Information Center, the atmosphere changes instantly. A sharp acoustic spike flashes across the sonar console. The operator leans forward. For a split second, the sound is almost hidden inside the background noise. Then it becomes clear. A high-frequency cavitation pattern. Propeller blades spinning much faster than before. This is not a submarine. It is smaller, faster, and accelerating rapidly through the water. The operator does not hesitate. Incoming underwater contact. The words move through the room like an electric current. Every head turns toward the tactical display. A new contact appears. Speed, 50 knots. Bearing directly toward the carrier. The computer calculates the track instantly. Heavyweight torpedo profile. Then it happens again. Another acoustic burst. A second launch signature. Seconds later, a third. 3 separate propulsion signatures ignite beneath the ocean. 3 high-speed underwater tracks are now moving toward the same target. The aircraft carrier. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical computer begins projecting intercept lines. 3 red tracks surge across the digital map. Beside them, the countdown appears. Time to impact. 6 minutes. The watch officer does not raise his voice. Carrier maneuvering. On the bridge, the order reaches the helm immediately. The massive ship begins to turn. A nuclear-powered aircraft carrier weighs nearly 100,000 tons. It cannot move like a destroyer. It cannot change direction instantly, but even a slow shift in heading can affect an incoming torpedo's path. The rudder moves. The bow begins a gradual turn to starboard. Below the waterline, the carrier's wake starts to change shape. Even a few degrees can matter. Back inside the Combat Information Center, the underwater tracks keep closing in. 5 minutes to impact. Above the surface, the MH-60R Seahawk is already reacting. Through the dipping sonar, the sensor operator hears 3 distinct launch signatures. 3 separate propulsion sounds. 3 torpedoes in the water. He marks the vectors quickly. Then something else appears on the screen. A larger acoustic signature moving slowly beneath the launch point. Submarine. One of the launch platforms. The helicopter turns sharply toward the contact. Altitude drops. The pilot steadies the aircraft while the sensor operator locks onto the submarine's position. Target confirmed. There is no delay now. The Seahawk releases a Mark 54 lightweight torpedo. The system drops from the helicopter and disappears into the sea below. Moments later, its motor comes alive. It begins its own underwater pursuit. Back inside the carrier strike group, the defensive response continues. 4 minutes to impact. The tactical officer gives the next order. Deploy Nixie! Along the stern of the carrier, a cable rapidly unspools into the water. At the end of the line, a small device begins broadcasting a powerful acoustic signal, the Nixie torpedo decoy. To a torpedo sonar seeker, the decoy sounds larger and more attractive than the carrier itself. Louder, closer, easier to follow. It trails behind the ship like a moving false target, designed to pull the incoming threat away. A second decoy deploys moments later. 2 acoustic shadows now trail behind the carrier. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical display updates. The first torpedo reacts almost immediately. Its track begins to curve. The seeker locks onto the decoy signal. The torpedo turns away from the carrier and accelerates toward the artificial sound. 1 threat diverted, but the other 2 torpedoes continue on course. Their guidance systems remain focused on the original target. 3 minutes to impact. The carrier continues its evasive turn. The enormous hull cuts a wider arc through the Strait of Hormuz. Behind it, the decoys move through the wake like bait in dark water. Above the ocean, the Seahawk's torpedo closes on the submarine contact. The system switches to active sonar. Ping, ping. Each pulse moves through the water, searching for the steel hull below. Inside the submarine, the crew hears it instantly. The sound of a hunter closing in. The submarine begins an emergency descent. Ballast tanks flood. The vessel angles downward, trying to slip beneath the sonar cone. But the Mark 54 is already tracking. Its onboard computer reads every echo, adjusts its course, and continues to close the distance. Back inside the Combat Information Center, the tension rises. 2 torpedoes remain. Range now less than 2 miles. Time to impact, under 2 minutes. Every screen in the room shows the same picture. 2 incoming tracks, 1 aircraft carrier, and barely enough time left for the next decision to matter. 5:47. Beneath the Strait of Hormuz, the water turns chaotic. Nearly 200 feet below the surface, the Mark 54 released from the Seahawk locks onto its target. Active sonar pulses cut through the dark water. Ping, ping. Each return gives the system a clearer image. A steel hull, a diesel-electric submarine attempting to dive deeper into the acoustic shadows below. Inside the submarine, the signal is unmistakable. A torpedo is closing fast. The captain reacts immediately. Emergency dive. Ballast tanks flood again. The submarine tilts downward, descending toward deeper water. The crew releases acoustic countermeasures, small devices designed to copy the sound of the submarine's propeller and confuse the incoming system. Bursts of artificial noise spread through the water. But the Mark 54 was built for moments like this. Its processor filters the echoes. False signals are pushed aside. The real target remains. Distance closing, 200 meters, 100. Then a sudden underwater pressure wave rolls through the depths. On the Seahawk's sensors, the submarine's acoustic signature disappears. No propeller rhythm, no hull noise, only disturbed water. One submarine is no longer part of the equation. But the situation is not over. On the surface, the aircraft carrier continues its evasive turn. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical display updates again. 2 torpedoes remain, both are still moving toward the carrier. Range, 1 mile. Time to impact, less than 90 seconds. The ship's stern cuts sharply through the water as the helmsman pushes the maneuver as far as possible. Behind the carrier, the Nixie decoys drag through the wake, broadcasting powerful acoustic signatures. The first torpedo has already followed the false target. On the tactical screen, its track bends away, chasing the artificial sound behind the ship. But the second torpedo continues straight. Its seeker has not switched targets. It is still locked onto the carrier. Inside the Combat Information Center, nobody speaks. The numbers change every second. 800 meters, 700, 600. At the same moment, another Seahawk sweeps low over the ocean surface. This aircraft has been tracking the second submarine contact detected earlier. Its sensors confirm the target. Another submarine is trying to slip away beneath the confusion. The helicopter pilot banks hard left and drops altitude. Target acquired. Within seconds, a second Mark 54 torpedo falls from the Seahawk's rack and disappears beneath the waves. The system activates and begins its underwater pursuit. Below the surface, the submarine commander hears the sonar pulse. Ping. He knows what it means. Another torpedo is searching. The submarine turns sharply, trying to change depth and direction at the same time. But underwater, every maneuver takes time, and underwater systems are built for speed. The Mark 54 cuts through the dark water, its sonar sweeping the ocean ahead. Then the echo returns. Steel hull, target locked. The distance closes fast. Seconds later, a powerful underwater pressure wave rolls through the depths beneath the strait. A cloud of bubbles rushes toward the surface. On the Seahawk's sensors, the submarine's acoustic signature disappears. 2 submarines, 2 impacts, both removed from the picture. But inside the Combat Information Center, no one looks away from the final threat. The last incoming torpedo, range 500 meters. The carrier continues its turn. Its engines push the enormous hull forward while the decoys trail behind it like lifelines. 400 meters, 300, 200. At this range, everything will be decided in seconds. Every screen in the Combat Information Center shows the same moving symbol. 1 incoming torpedo, closing fast. The Strait of Hormuz has become a race between steel, sound, and timing. And somewhere beneath the surface, the final system is still searching. 552. The last torpedo is now less than 200 meters from the carrier. Inside the Combat Information Center, every screen follows the same contact. A single acoustic signature moving through the water at nearly 50 knots. Closing quickly. The carrier continues its evasive turn, but a ship this large cannot outrun something moving beneath the surface. Its best defense now is deception. Behind the ship, the Nixie decoys trail through the turbulent wake. 2 artificial acoustic targets are broadcasting powerful signals into the water. Each one louder than the carrier itself, each one designed to pull the incoming threat away at the final moment. On the tactical display, the torpedo's track remains steady, bearing unchanged, still aimed directly at the ship, range 150 meters. Inside the Combat Information Center, no one speaks. The sonar operator watches the acoustic waveform rise higher. The torpedo's propulsion signature is clear now. Focused, committed, 100 meters. Then suddenly the track shifts. Only a few degrees at first. The torpedo's seeker begins drifting toward the louder acoustic signal behind the carrier. The decoy. On the tactical display, the red track curves slowly away from the ship's hull. It is changing targets. Inside the Combat Information Center, the watch officer keeps his eyes fixed on the screen. Still no celebration. Still no relief. Because a torpedo can still reacquire its original target. Range to the decoy, 70 meters, then 60, then 50. The torpedo accelerates. Its seeker is now fully drawn toward the artificial acoustic signature trailing behind the carrier. Seconds later, the ocean erupts behind the ship. A massive burst of water rises from the carrier's wake. Shockwaves ripple across the surface, but the carrier continues forward. The decoy did exactly what it was built to do. Inside the Combat Information Center, the incoming track vanishes from the display. The final torpedo is gone, but the situation beneath the Strait of Hormuz is not over. because one contact remains. The third submarine. While the torpedoes were closing on the carrier, that submarine tried to break away. Its acoustic signature shifted course several minutes earlier, turning north beneath the confusion of sonar pulses, countermeasures, and disturbed water. But the strike group's sensors never lost it. High above the surface, the first Seahawk banks sharply toward the updated coordinates. The crew already understands the next move. The dipping sonar lowers once again into the sea. Within seconds, the system detects the target, a slow-moving submarine attempting to slip away at low speed. The helicopter pilot steadies the aircraft. Contact confirmed. The release system is armed. Another Mark 54 drops from the Seahawk and disappears beneath the waves. Moments later, its motor activates. The torpedo begins its search pattern. Below the surface, the submarine crew hears the sonar pulses almost immediately. Ping, ping. Each return grows stronger. The submarine attempts one final maneuver, diving deeper while releasing acoustic countermeasures into the water. But the Mark 54 has already locked onto the real hull. The system accelerates, closing. Then comes the third impact. A powerful pressure wave rolls through the water beneath the strait. Moments later, the submarine's acoustic signature disappears from the sonar display. Inside the Seahawk cockpit, the sensor operator confirms what the screen is already showing. Contact lost, signature no longer detected. Back aboard the carrier, the Combat Information Center updates the tactical map. 3 submarine tracks, all gone. 3 major underwater events recorded beneath the surface. The Strait of Hormuz falls quiet again. 5:59. The carrier strike group begins returning to its original formation. The destroyers tighten the defensive screen. Helicopters circle above the water, continuing to scan for any remaining contacts. But beneath them, the ocean is quiet once more. No propeller signatures, no incoming tracks, no submarine contacts. Inside the Combat Information Center, the watch officer enters the final line into the operational log. 3 hostile submarines engaged, all threats neutralized. The aircraft carrier continues its course through the narrow waters of the strait. From the flight deck above, the sea once again looks calm. Cargo ships continue their slow transit. The horizon remains clear. Nothing in the morning light reveals the intense confrontation that just unfolded beneath the surface. But everyone inside the strike group understands what happened. 3 submarines approached, 3 torpedoes were launched, and in less than 40 minutes, the underwater pursuit beneath the Strait of Hormuz was over.